Morning, everyone. This could be one of the lost fires of the year. Nice and warm out. Just got some softwood in here. Just taking the chill out. Yes, I use a shovel. Okay. Figured I'd deal with this before we get to the bench. There we go. I'll see you guys at the bench. How's it going, everyone? You guys having a good day? I'm having a great day. The temperatures are slowly rising here, which means this could be one of the shortest winters that I remember. I've only cleared the driveway 2 times this year. The old skiddy mixture got about 3 hours all winter. So I was going to change the oil on it. I still had about 100 hours left on my service, but I'm glad I didn't. Anyhow, moving on. We are at the next part of how to port a power saw. Again, thank you to everybody that's followed along. This series was quite lengthy, but again, I wanted to build the knowledge, put it on video, and then it's there. It's in a playlist so that you guys can review it. Because again, with the amount of email and questions and stuff like that I get nowadays, it's hard for me to always answer all the emails. So I figured that way, if you guys want the knowledge, it's there in a playlist. So we got our 670 running. Seems to be a good running saw. It starts 1 or 2 pulls from what I've experienced. It tunes well. It idles well. So this part is braking. We ran the saw in the last video. I let it idle for about a tank of fuel, okay? I let it idle. I'd come outside every once in a while, blip the throttle, clean it up. Because, you know, when you port these, they're like an old snowmobile. They build up over time. And I mean 10, 15 minutes idling. If they don't idle, you know your low jet is a little too rich. Lean it out a little bit. If it slowly over time decreases idle, you know your low jet is tuned a little too rich. So once you know it runs good and it's tuned good and it's idling, what do you do next? Well, I've got about 25 minutes of time on this saw just idling it. So what we're going to do next, I'm going to show you guys the next procedure I do in my break-in. Break-in is the most important thing after assembly. You guys saw how clean I made the saw. That ensures that piston has a chance to live. Because like I said in the last, the assembly video, these saws, when you grind on them and sand them and all that stuff, you're embedding fines into the cylinder wall. When that piston goes up and down at the beginning, you know, thousands of times per minute, even at idle, you could literally wear your piston. Doesn't always lead to failures, but that could take life off the saw. So now it's running and it's good. I'm going to take the muffler off and I'm going to do a piston inspection. I always do this. I like to put my eyes on my work before I put the saw on the wood, because you never know, guys, right? I play with chainsaws because they're fickle creatures, and you never know what's going to happen. So I like to be diligent in the first couple tanks. Usually if they last a tank, they're fine. But again, so what we're going to do now, I undid the bolts. I haven't pulled the muffler off. I want you guys to come in here and let's look at the muffler, or let's look at the piston together, and I'll tell you guys what I see and what you should be looking for. Okay guys, we're at the bench. This one has a bracket here, and then there's 2 bolts that hold a cover that covers these 2 holes. Undo those. Your muffler bolts are located behind there. Okay. A little bit of oil under there, no big deal. Okay, I'm just going to take you guys off the mount here, and let's see what do we got. Okay. Again, you guys can see the cylinder. It's already starting. Hold on, let's see if we can get down further. pull it slowly. Okay, see the cylinder wall there? It's not broken in yet. See, you can still see my sandpaper marks a little bit. Okay, but those rings are bedding in. You can see the lines. Those aren't scores. That's actually just the, you'll see that on a fresh saw. Okay, and again, no damage to the piston. These cameras are awesome. You guys could see those little fine, yeah, I did it again. I smashed my finger. You guys could see those fine little flecks on there. That's the piston re-bedding in. So again, nothing untoward about that. This thing will take 4 or 5 tanks probably till it's fully broken in. So there you go. That would be normal and typical for what your piston should look like, guys, okay? If you see, and just hold on a second here. I'm going to put you guys back on the mount. I'm going to show you what you don't want to see, okay? And I'll pull out a few things so that you can compare this piston to what you don't want. Okay, guys, I just grabbed random pistons that are no good. I want to show you guys, so you now have seen this piston. It looks good. There's no big scores in it or anything. Okay, see that? If you didn't do your chamfer right, this was not a chamfer situation, this was a bottom end failure, 562. Okay, you see that? That's, if you don't do your chamfer properly after a tank or two, you're going to get that. Okay, those sharp edges will cut the piston. Now again, that's not what would happen to this saw. This saw, the bearings let go, the plastic races went around through the transfers, got stuck in between the piston and the cylinder wall, and ended up going through there. This would be typical of a failure of a 5 series. Okay, and even that, see those scuffs there? Those are fairly deep. You don't, if your piston looks like that, don't panic, guys. Take your top end off, run your finger over that chamfer again, and make sure it's smooth. And again, you can go back and forth between where the piston is rubbed and what your port looks like. You'll find the spot. And you know what, guys? When you're first starting out, you'll probably have a few pistons that look like that. That's why I don't recommend, if you are porting to start out with, I mean, do it for your buddies, but make sure they're aware that, you know, you're learning. And you're going to have problems. Here's another worn piston. You see the shine here? Okay. On the sides and the bottom, you guys see this right here? Okay, this is a piston that's rocking in the cylinder. So again, if you're putting a new piston in a cylinder and you don't check its fitment in the bore, okay, if you put it in the bore and it rocks like this a lot, that's typically what you're going to see. Okay, and I'm going to show you the next, if I have one, I'm going to look. I think I have one. I'm going to show you the next stage from this wear to when they eventually fail from rocking. Just give me a second. Okay, guys, I don't have one that's broken. This is a 200T piston. There is a taper here, okay? It's starting to curl over. This is typically, 200Ts do this. See that shiny spot? See how there's like a bevel there now? Okay, what ends up happening, if it doesn't fit, you might not always hear it, but as this rocks, it's going to wear here and here, okay? As it goes around, well, what will usually end up happening, a lot of times you will break the bottom of the skirt, okay? So if you run your saw for 4 or 5 tanks and you look and you notice weird wear anywhere, you're not, now again, you're not going to see the bottom of the skirt, but again, this is a true indication. If you see that going on next to the ports, you got to question whether that cylinder you redid is any good. Okay, and again, this is the next stage of failure. Okay, this intake side, exhaust side, this thing died from heat. Sometimes you'll see that after you port a saw, and again, it's not always tuning related. It could be that your chamfer is no good. I just wanted to really send this home for you guys. And here's another one. This one's stuck on the cold side, ring stuck because of carbon fouling, and then it just, you know. Okay. So once you know your piston's good, you gotta, look over all this stuff, guys, because you know when you're gonna have a problem the minute you give it to the customer. And if you didn't look over the, I'm missing a bolt here. No, okay. If you didn't look over the piston, you're gonna have no way of knowing what's going on in there. And believe me, you will eventually blow the saw up if your chamfer and your port shape isn't good. Again, if you didn't do a proper shape on your port and the top of the port is too flat, take a look at those rings. You will start to see wear usually on the top of the ring. The ring should be square. It'll start to look like this. And again, that's showing you that your ring is starting to catch the top of the port. And that's bad news. If that happens, this is why I keep saying don't go too far. You're gonna have to go back in there and reshape your port. You want it higher in the center so that ring slowly goes into the port, okay? So again, that's why I keep reiterating, don't turn your saw too far to start with, because if you make a mistake, you're buying a cylinder. There's no two ways about that. You're going to be buying a cylinder. So, because if you run out of timing room, yeah, you can repair it, but now you're going to have a saw. Sorry guys, I'm just looking here. Let's see if I can do this without taking the top cover off. You're going to have a saw that doesn't have any torque, or it runs at too high of an RPM. And again, as I may or may not have discussed in the video on checking the timing numbers, go and review that. If you go too far with your numbers, you're not going to have enough space left to grind your ports where you want them, right? So again guys, I'm just giving you the do's and don'ts as part of the series. And I'm trying to fill you guys in with as much info as I can without it being too, too lengthy and too confusing. I'm just trying to give you guys the nuts and bolts of the do's and don'ts, as I see it, of porting. And remember, if you talk to 10 different guys that port, you're going to hear 10 different ways to build that saw. And that's why I always say I'm not one to argue semantics with other builders. If it works for them and their saws run the way they want them to run and their customers like them, I say that's good. Like I'll never say my way is the only way. It's the way that gives consistent results on any power saw for me. And I'm one to try all the different ways of porting, and I have. And again, I have a lathe, and I think in the future, I don't know when, I'd like to do another build and show you guys how a lathe is incorporated into a build, so you guys can kind of see why having a lathe is an important tool in a power saw shop. Okay, I'm going to bar this thing up today and run it. I want to put some miles on it, because now, after 20-25 minutes of idling, I've revved it up and down. Cylinder and piston look really nice. I don't see any problems. And I'm not going to check the spark plug right now. That's the next thing I do, because I haven't put this thing in the wood. It's probably, and in fact, let's just have a look-see here. This spark plug's probably going to be wet or rich. Here's my scrunch. Let's have a look-see at the spark plug here, guys. It's probably going to be rich, because although this thing's gotten warm, you're not going to get it hot like when you're, you guys know what I'm saying. So, here, let's open this up. Again, it's wet. Can you guys see that? It's wet. No color in it yet. Okay, so this is this part of the series. Again, after the saw is idled and you've revved it a little bit, I typically don't rev them for at least, I rev them a little bit at the beginning, as you guys saw in the last video where I started it up. I don't bring them up to the top for quite a while. I'll rev them a little bit just to check tuning. But really, I won't rev the saw as far as it's going to go until I have wood and a bar on it. So I don't know how far this thing's going to go yet. We will see when I put it in the wood. Pretty good looking saw, eh guys? David did us a solid. He really did. Thanks again, Dave. I appreciate you, buddy. Okay. What's left? Put this thing in the wood and wrap up the entire project. Again, stay tuned. I know I keep alluding to the fact, but you guys are gonna want to watch this project once it's broken in. We're gonna do something special with this saw, and I really, really hope that you guys will be here all the way to the end. Because those of you that have watched through and commented, I'm making notes of who's watching this project, and you guys can guess what's going on. But we're gonna do something special with this saw. Again, as always, thanks for watching. Take her easy. I'm going to bar this thing up and I'm going to go put it in the wood. Can't wait to show you guys. Later.